Hello there, beautiful people. I'm Tracy Rigdon, and this is the Contrast Project Lounge Podcast, Season 4 finale. Are you all ready for this? Let's do it. Welcome back to the program, kids. I have joining me today on the podcast, Mr. Shelton Hull. Shelton, how you doing?
Doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing great, buddy. I'm doing great. It's been a minute.
Yes, it has. Looking forward to it. You're on the season finale. The Contrast
Season
Project
finale
Lounge?
today. Exciting day. It's going to be an exciting, I tell you, this is going to be one of our best productions yet. It really is. Because not only is it the season finale, and we're going to be trying some new things that we talked about, we also have joining us local singer, songwriter, Megan McKenzie. Megan, we haven't met in person. This is our first face-to-face, and I got to tell you, I am so pleased that you could make it.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much.
For the people that haven't heard, whether in a live performance or on Facebook or Instagram or Spotify, and we will provide the links, Megan's music is nothing short of phenomenal. Megan, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions and then shoot over to Shelton real quick. Megan, in your own words, could you tell our friends, fans, and followers here on the podcast about your musical background and some of the genres of music that have influenced you in the past and or continue to influence you?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of always dread getting asked that question, not because I'm not interested in talking about it, but because it's such a long answer. I have been doing music since I was I've been doing music since I was born. I don't know. I really don't remember when I started singing. I just always was singing. Started writing music when I was probably 12, 13. I learned guitar, when I was 12 or 13, I wanted to be Michelle Branch. I had to be Michelle Branch.
Okay.
But I also really loved, I have always had a love for, and we'll get into this later, I'm sure, but I've always had a love for women in music. I think I grew up, I was born in 1990, so I grew up a 90s, early 2000s kid. And at the time, I was really into heavy rock. And a lot of the bands that were out were all guys, except for Evanescence. And I loved Amy Lee. I still love Amy Lee. I mean, she's one of the greatest rock vocalists of all time. But pretty much any band that was kind of relatively popular at the time that had a girl singer, like Paramore, I was obsessed with. So it spans quite a few genres. I was just saying I liked Michelle Branch, I liked Amy Lee, I liked Hayley Williams. I also really like Adele. Pretty much any of those real big voices I was really into. As I got older and I kind of learned that women have been doing cool stuff, for a while, I got into Heart. I had a huge Ann Wilson phase for a minute there. And then of course there are other non-women, like Freddie Mercury, pretty much anyone with a big voice. I'm let's go. If you're theatrical and dramatic, which I also did musical theater, if you're theatrical and dramatic, I'm into it.
Very good. Well, you're talking about big voices. You've got a pretty big voice yourself. You most certainly do.
I've heard that.
Yeah, you do. Megan, let me ask you one more question really quick. What do you love most about the more intimate settings, the local music scene, being a part of the local music community?
Oh, that's also a very tough question because it's a long answer. I would say if we're going to talk about intimate venues, I really like that. I think that a lot of local venues are actually really committed to having a music scene, not
Hmm.
necessarily like, oh, I'd like to have music so that I can make money. I mean, of course, a business's purpose is to make money, but I think there's also a mission for a lot of local venues. I'm thinking of the Walrus, like a lot, very, very strongly, where they actually want to create a space for art. And I don't
Hmm.
think that that necessarily exists everywhere and in every venue, especially in the larger venues. Um, and then as far as like dealing like having relationships with other musicians and music fans, um, God, the local scene here is just so incredible. Like just so incredible. The people here
Hmm.
are so supportive, not just as like fans of music, but as other musicians. I just got off the phone a couple days ago with Elise Berlin, who is a friend of mine and another musician, and we were just
Yes.
talking about how grateful we are for the scene here, for everyone really being a part of building a community, not just like, hey, I want to get my music out here. We show up to other people's shows. Like, we don't, even if we're not playing, we all just like hang out, go support each other. Um, it's really lovely. I have heard for so long um, that Jacksonville doesn't have an art scene, and that's bullshit. Like,
Yeah, it is.
it
It's
really
total
is. It's just
bullshit.
it's really bullshit. Like I had heard that and so I just like didn't try for a while because I was like, yeah, like there's just nothing going on. But then when I actually decided to like leave my house and try, I was like, oh wait, hold on. Like this is amazing. This is incredible.
Yeah.
We are have one of the most like underrated music scenes and art scenes and all kind of like all the different arts. But one of the most underrated music scenes I think in the country. We have an incredible music scene here. You just got to know where
Mhm.
to find it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, like they always say, and you've seen it online time and again, if you can't find something to do in Jacksonville, you're not trying hard enough.
Like 100%. I have kind of been a little petty about it sometimes where like I'll be talking to like friends and family about it and I'll be like, I hate when I see like, oh, Jacksonville's so boring. I'm like, have you tried leaving your apartment by the town center? Like
Mhm.
Right?
like I don't know. Maybe you're just like going to fucking Buffalo Wild Wings. Like I don't know what to
I
tell you.
know. I
Sorry,
uh,
can I curse that much on here?
yeah, yeah, yeah. We don't care. And that brings to mind too when we were talking about venues, and
Yeah.
venues that are supportive of music.
Yeah.
And we've seen in the last month or so several venues that have shut down,
Yeah.
and
Ugh.
one in particular that comes to mind that was very supportive of both, the artists and music scene was Tabula Rasa, and
Oh my God, I'm
that came
heartbroken.
as a real shock to me because I
Yeah,
really thought
it
that
did. It did.
I thought Randy was doing well over there. I don't know, what the heck
Yeah.
happened, and then you got Jazzy's had shut down.
Yeah,
So
I know.
it's just it's
In
heartbreaking, really, to
1904.
a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah. Oh gosh. Well,
I
let me
don't
ask.
know. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. I was going to ask Shelton real quick. Basically, along those lines, Shelton. How as we just discussed, where things are just, ever changing. And a lot of it, I know it has to do with finances. It really doesn't have to do with so much crowds because a lot of these places did have followers.
Yeah,
I mean, if you think
absolutely.
about, and that's just off the top of my head, thinking Tabula Rasa, because I've been there so many times, it's like every time I've been there have
Hmm.
been people there. Uh, and same with Jazzy's. It's always pretty much had a decent crowd for a small place, and so
Absolutely.
you think about things like insurance and rent going up and things like that, which we know had to have something to do with some of these closures. Uh, well,
Absolutely.
Shelton, how have you seen, since you cover a lot of music in and around Northeast Florida and Florida in general, and some national acts as well? How have you seen the local music scene? How it's evolved over the last couple of decades in Jacksonville?
Well, first of all, with Tabula Rasa, I went there for the first time because of you. You brought me out there for a folio thing, and
Yes.
that whole Emerald Trail concept is building and growing, and I think that in their case, probably they just couldn't keep the finances right in time for that to pop off, but they may return. I think that certainly the pandemic, when it hit in 2020, in general, is always kind of on the margins. It can be, it can be very iffy, even under the best occasions. The pandemic hit, and it pretty much it killed the cash flow for everybody, across the board. And then we say early 21, mid 21 into 2022, we start to get back to normal, and we still see things continuing to open. We have more options for live music now than at any time, and certainly in the probably 25 years or so that I've been covering music here. But then once they start getting a little momentum back, the increase in commercial real estate rent, increase in rent, increase in leases, that is the number one culprit on a lot of them. In the case of Jazzy's, they had a couple of slip and fall accidents that turned into lawsuits, and as a result of the as I understand it, as a result of the lawsuit settlements, it just fucked their insurance situation up terribly and made it untenable. Then you look at 1904, so given the people that own 1904, basically, you've got from that whole Elbow area, Spliffs, Ocean Street Tacos, 1904, and Underbelly. So you've got multiple venues, food, drink, serving liquor, this and that. In theory, the business model, and Spliffs is expanding too. In theory, that kind of business model that they had is about as secure and as safe a business model as you can have doing live music out here. But even they had to tighten up a bit. Now, with 1904 closing, they still have the space, and they're going to keep it going, I think, as a restaurant or something. So, I doubt they're going to dismantle the stage and everything. So it may come back at some point. With the scene in general, I think that people complain about the city and say the music scene isn't that good. I think that what we're seeing, like nationwide, is more of a shift from, certainly in the music scene, especially in rock, hip hop, things like that, jazz even. We're seeing less of an emphasis on these major cities. Back when we were kids, to be especially a rock musician or a rapper or something, you had to have a major label record deal. You had to have commercial radio on your side. You had to have MTV on your side, agents, all this. You got to press up all this material, and then you got to go tour. Now with social media, the new devices and all that, the logistics are much easier. Musicians can, as Megan will tell you, you can write something today, record it tomorrow, and, in theory, have the money in your pocket by Monday. So now there's the gatekeepers have gone away, organizations like MTV, Clear Channel Radio, such and such. They kind of overplayed the advantage they had in the market, and now they've kind of killed their own market. Now artists can. It really comes down to the hustle. You look at the stuff Megan's doing, stuff people like Tori are doing, the Cats and Tonal and all that. Like these are people that they're writing a lot of material, they're playing out, and they're passionate about what they do. And from a writer standpoint, you guys keep me informed about what you're doing. When I ask questions, you come back with good answers and stuff. So the artist can now engage the fans directly. You can, through streaming, you can put your product out without having to pay for physical product unless you're selling merchandise at gigs. So the fans are paying less money for the product, which then allows them to spend more money on more product. And the artist is getting like a bigger share of the revenue, and without any like the commercial gatekeepers. And that whole revenue sharing thing, that over the next 5 years, that's something that musicians really, someone's going to have to figure out like a way to up that split.
Yeah, I made a little face because I'm looking at my earnings for the year on DistroKid, and I'm like, oh, cool, I can pay for DistroKid again for a year.
Yes. So if you think that's rough, I make my living writing about music. So, I'm pinching the pennies too.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very happy with my career, like I'm actually kind of grateful that like I kind of came back into music in my 30s because I'm like, cool, got my career. Like, this is my fun passion project. I think when I was 20 and I was trying to do it, I was like, damn, I'm like trying to make all this money and it just like wasn't happening. So
let me ask you this, Megan, with the work you're doing now and like, with your approach to the business, how do you think things would be different for you professionally if you were doing what you're doing, say, in the music industry as it existed, say, in the 90s?
I'm actually not sure. Do you mean how would I pursue like success as a musician in the 90s?
Yeah, like the way things, get into indie labels and getting a major deal, doing the South by Southwest and CMJ. How do you think your approach to business would have been different?
I really don't know the answer to that question. I mean, I guess I would just be putting myself out there more, like really like having to hit the actual physical pavement, which honestly, I don't necessarily have the energy for now as I'm older and I have another career that I love, but I think that I do better in that space. Personally, I feel like if I was a little bit older and I was an adult in the 90s, I was a child in the 90s, but if I was an adult in the 90s and I was able to do that, I feel like I probably would have been more successful. Not because there's anything special about me necessarily, just that I am a little bit more of I'm not a digital person. I don't like creating content, honestly. I like creating the music. I don't want to make TikToks. I don't want to make Instagram posts. I don't want to do it. I don't. I had a career in social media before my current career, and
I am up to my
very quickly. I just don't like it.
Up to my nose in that stuff every day.
Yeah, and like you look at Tori, and you look at Tori Nance, who is killing it. She's making the content. She is putting the work in, and it's working for her. And I'm really, really happy and proud of her. She deserves it.
Artist of the year, in my opinion.
Honestly, 100%. I personally, for me, maybe one day I'll get there. Maybe I think currently I'm kind of more working on like, let's finish this album. But so maybe when it's done, I might feel that way. But currently, I don't know. I feel like I do better. I'm a sociable person. I'm very outgoing. I'm very friendly. I can smile and like I can talk to people. I can talk to you face to face. Put me in front of a camera and expect me to do anything but talk to you and like make content and like have it be engaging. I have no idea what I'm doing. And it's not that even that I don't want to learn. I do, but I don't have the passion for it that I think. I know Tori has said that she really enjoys it, and good for her. I'm so happy for her that she enjoys that. But I don't think that that's really, that doesn't come as naturally to me. So I think that I probably would have been maybe a little bit better at physically handing out CDs and being like, hey, here you go. Here's my CD.
Yeah.
Come look at my face.
Right.
Come watch me sing.
Right. Well, and you guys, you had mentioned Shelton and Megan. You mentioned Tori, and you had mentioned Brittany before, and playing out, and you guys came up with this traveling band of female performers, the Sad Girls Happy Hour.
Right.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, so Sad Girl Happy Hour, I am very, very proud to say is my baby. There are a lot of things that keep me going, and that is one of them in a big way. We don't have any shows planned currently, but initially it just kind of, I don't know how I came up with the name. I think we were talking earlier, Tracy, about how sometimes like stuff just shows up and you don't know where it came from, but it's there. That's sort of just like Sad Girl Happy Hour. That's the name. I had talked to Elise just kind of like casually in our little like open mic circuit. Like, hey girl, like let's find another girl singer and just play an all girl show. Cause it's been something that, how do I say this? As a woman in music, it can be tough sometimes to just show up and be respected on the same level that a man doing the same thing might, on the same level of a man that might be doing the same thing. And I've had not so much now as I've come back in my 30s, but when I was much younger, teenager, early 20s, I had a lot of men treat me like shit in this industry. I've had men, I'm going to be a bit explicit if that's okay.
Yep.
I had a man once get to know me, was talking to me about music. It was all music, you know, it wasn't like anything like a dating thing or anything like that. I had a man once tell me like, you know, hey, come over, we'll record some stuff. I really like your stuff. And I was like, yeah, that sounds good. And then he asked me for a blowjob. And I was like, I'm not doing that, actually. I want to just make music with you. So as a, I actually, there were quite a few situations that made me want to take a break from music for a few years. And that was one of them. All of a similar nature, we'll just say. And so when I came back, I had met these really incredible women. And I was like, I want to feature these women. And it started with just me and Elise and Jessica Hope, who I don't know if you guys know her. She's incredible. One of the most beautiful voices I think I've ever heard in my life. It started out with the three of us, and we were just like, let's just do this. And then Erin Moline from Blossom and Bone wanted to be a part of it. And I was like, yeah. And she decided to take all the women from Blossom and Bone and create Highway Bouquet, they're just amazing. And then Tori was playing for Elise. She wasn't actually playing her original music then. Keep in mind, y'all, this was less than a year ago, just to show you what a force Tori is.
Right.
This was less than a year ago. She was not playing her own music out, at least to my knowledge. She wasn't playing with us. And she was just playing guitar with Elise. And then one day she was like, hey, can I play some of my songs? And I was like, hell yeah. And then now she's Tori Nance, just being Tori Nance.
Right.
Less than a year ago. I actually came up on my Facebook memories a couple days ago. I was like advertising for our first show at Tabula Rasa. But yeah, so Saturday Happy Hour is now it's just an incredible collective of women. So we try to every time have the core group of the people that I just mentioned and also feature another woman every time. We've just had some really incredible people. Last time we did BB Deluxe, and I love her. I love her so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you know, to mentioning Tori, you know, Tori was on the podcast, a little over a year ago or so, and we were talking about women in the business, but women behind the kit, female drummers. And that's basically, and it was before Sad Girls and before that, and Tori talked about, she talked about what you just said, about being a woman coming into the business, and in particular, I guess, and Tori and B. Gale, they talked about the same kinds of things. Women weren't treated the same, especially in their position in the band as a drummer, female drummer.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Yeah,
and so it's definitely something out there. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. And at the time when we were doing that series, we talked back and forth about a whole lot of female drummers that are just incredible to this day. And then of course ones that have since passed away, but pioneers in drumming, and that goes you know, right across the aisle from what you were talking about. Let me ask you when it comes to playing out and you know, doing the Sad Girl thing, and it brings in a crowd, you know, you've got everybody has got their fan base, and then you have the new fans that are fans of the Sad Girl, you know, group of ladies, and then the individual fans come out. How do you what advice would you give to emerging artists, new artists, local artists, on building a local fan base? What things have you done to build the fan? I know we were talking about how Tori is just all over, you know, the social media now with the short clips and reels and videos and TikTok and stuff. But what advice would you give?
Because I am not the social media girl, I would say what has helped me is number one, being a genuine human being. I think people can really sniff out when you're trying to be a certain kind of person. Just show up and be yourself and write songs that are genuine to you. You know, I have heard my whole life, no one's going to listen to your stuff. None of it's upbeat. It's not very like dancey. And then I come out with an album full of sad shit and everyone seems to like it. So, and I have a whole thing about sad music. You know, I have a whole production that's just sad music. So be yourself. You know, don't try to be anyone that you are not. But also, like, if you are someone who is naturally shy, do push yourself a little. That's not to say like totally go 180, right? But do push yourself a little to maybe socialize with your fans a little bit, or not necessarily fans, people who are just happen to be at your show, you know, and when they get to know you and you listen to them and you listen to what they have said. I remember someone came up to me, and she and I are friends now, but I didn't know her as well at the time. And she came up to me and said, you know, that one song about your mom really resonated with me because of X, Y, and Z. And I really, I enjoyed that moment. But I think she did too. And I think she felt heard. And I think that's what people are just looking for connection. And if you go out and you connect with the people who are listening to your music, they will respect you as an artist as well.
Well, it's just like you said, communicating with him. It's really very, very. It's important to connect with your audience. I think we all can agree. I mean, I think we can all agree that there are certain bands that you go to see that you leave there, you know, feeling excited, and everybody in the room was excited and that kind of thing. And then there's others you go, and there was very little communicating with the audience. I've seen even big acts that were relatively boring on stage. The music was good. The sound was good. Kudos to the sound man. But they was, you know, I've seen some big acts that were not very good with the audience.
Yeah, I'm not going to say any out loud, but I'm actually thinking of a show that I went to a couple years ago where I was so excited to go see this band, and I left and I was like, well, they were good, but like, they were identical to the studio album. Like, I could have just listened to that at my house. You know?
Well, see now. See now, if it sounds exactly like the studio album, and it's there's a good chance there's a whole lot of lip syncing going on, and they're playing the tracks.
Yeah, I mean that wasn't the case, but yeah,
you know, the live nuance is really. I mean, if you're a connoisseur of music, you know, you can hear the live nuances far better than the canned music, the playing the tracks and that kind of thing. I was and I'll tell you, some 20 some odd years ago, 25 years ago, I was playing in a dance band down at Disney, playing drums, and it was an electronic kit, which is not the worst thing in the world. But I had to play with a click track, and they would feed me not only the click track, but there was this other stuff coming in my headphones that I couldn't get rid of, and I absolutely hated it. The money was good. The money was good, but I absolutely hated it. I hate it. Well, Disney pays their musicians pretty good. Shelton, let me ask you that, and both of you can chime in on this, but. How do you perceive when it comes to the music scene, since you write about a lot of things and you cover music, and of course you have the weed column and other interesting stories that, you know, everybody's been reading for 27 years now?
Something like that. Yeah.
27. How do you perceive the intersection between the arts, the community, and music, and even political activism, for that matter? Whether, you know, it'd be if you go back many years, of course, you saw a lot of the artists at Woodstock, Richie Havens and you know, Bob Dylan and all these people that have over time been very, very much, their music resonated in the activist community, for one, and there are certainly still artists that do it. How do you perceive the intersection of the art, the activism, and the music?
Well, I'd say that, well, for example, speaking for myself as someone that's sort of generally liberal, progressive minded, who's come up in Florida at a time that the state in general is like moving increasingly to the right, I'd say that arts and music, particularly music, are the tip of the spear when it comes to advancing progressive values in our society. For one good example, I could raise Donna Deegan. You know, Donna Deegan becoming mayor, and of course she's great. And I think she would have won anyway, but the arts and music scene really helped carry her over the top. The fact that she, you know, would go to bars, go to clubs, go to places like Rain Dogs, like
she came to Tabula while I was playing.
And so not like just having herself there and making you go to her, but she goes to people where they are. And, you know, it's, I mean, just if you can just get in the door, if you can just engage people a little bit, it carries you a long way. And I think that those folks supported her, and, you know, we needed a win. You know, when it comes to, say, I always say, you know, I can't speak for the rest of Florida, but Jacksonville, Duval County is a safe space, you know, and when it comes to, you know, protecting immigrants, protecting reproductive choice, protecting the LGBT community, that's something that, I mean, you know, I wish Hollywood, like would use their power and their platform as effectively as musicians have, especially on the local level. And if you go all over the country, you know, and one thing with the music industry, it's no longer just about getting to New York or getting to Chicago, getting to LA. Now it's, you know, you can be Poughkeepsie, New York, or Richmond, Virginia, or, you know, Half Moon Bay, California, like these smaller scenes, like cities, like I think a lot of people have just given up on that old, like everybody wants to go to New York. We all want to go to New York and do this thing. Like now we just want to visit, you know.
Well, no one can afford New York, first of all. Like I wanted to move to Philly, and then I was like, never mind.
I know.
Good.
Yeah.
At the time, I'm good with my $600 rent for a 3-bedroom. Thank you.
Yeah, it's so expensive in New York. Trump had to come down to Florida, you know, among other reasons.
among a few other reasons. Yeah. All hail Hillary. I want to touch
Hillary.
on hail Hillary. That's right.
I keep this with me everywhere I go.
All right. I'm going to touch on something that's been in the news. I'm not backpedal on this Jason Aldean thing in the small town, because you mentioned a bunch of small town. You mentioned a bunch of small towns. I've vented that one out of my system. Claire and I had a good talk about that. The new one that's hit, of course, you know, Oliver Anthony. And skyrocket to the top of the charts, and they're calling it what, the small town anthem, the new small town anthem, or whatever the hell that is, whatever the fuck. And then there's a lot of people that are noticing something about that, and you and I talked about it, Shelton, the astroturfing. How in the world, you know, and even the man that pumped some funding into his recording and all this other stuff early on, has been asked about that. Several magazines have approached him about that and asked him, you know, what the hell's going on? You know, how's this guy, you know, skyrocketing to the top of the Billboard chart in under a week when he was working in a barn 2 weeks ago? And I'm not saying the guy has absolutely no talent. I'm not saying that at all.
He is good. I don't love him, but he is good.
And some of the lyrics are a little bit over the top too, just like that damn Aldean thing. But it does seem odd, and it really does smell of astroturfing, because it seems like social media was flooded with all these reviews of him and his music and his background and everything, and most of which were coming from it appeared to be alternative sites, alternative magazine sites, that kind of thing, that they were just flooding, and they were all sponsored links. So these people were buying ads on social media to flood these pictures of this ginger, this Southern boy Ginger playing a acoustic guitar, and everybody loves him now. He's at the top of the charts. He says, "I'm turning down $8 million contracts and shit." And first of all, I'll tell you something. He's going to be just like Aldean in very short time. He's going to be buying a goddamn $10 million mansion somewhere in Florida, nowhere near a small town.
Right.
He can talk all that trash he wants, but the boy's going to have money. They're already talking about him appearing with Aldean at the Super Bowl in 24.
Oh gosh. Well, because Taylor Swift turned it down,
Oh,
with
yeah.
with the astroturfing, it's kind of like what they used to do with like a lot of conservative books, like the Bill O'Reilly books, the Tucker Carlson books, and you have some third party. Of course, the publishers are. They're right wingers anyway. And anybody can do this, but the conservatives raise this to an art form. They would just buy a bunch of books in bulk to boost their standing in the rating in the charts, and then give those things away. And I'm not sure exactly how the astroturfing works, say, with streaming audio and Spotify and all that, and YouTube. But that is certainly something that's happening. And when it comes to country music, I'm not the biggest country music fan, but I'll say, in my opinion, the best country music artist of this generation is Orville Peck. The out gay guy with the mask doing country music on Sub Pop Records. He's top the charts. I mean, he's dominating creatively anyway. And people like Aldean and these other people, they're kind of doing what, like, you remember like back in the old days, like in the 80s when rappers would just rap about how good they were at rapping, and even in the 90s and the early 2000s, it was very heavily on lyricism. Now it's not. Now it's just repetitive themes. It's drugs, it's guns, it's women. It's all like the same stuff. The beats sound the same. And then there's skill to it. There's good stuff being made, but it's sort of like, it's like when you don't have the create, like necessarily a creativity, you put little frou-frou on it. You throw on a t-shirt, you adjust your image to like appeal to certain crowd, and I mean, and with these country people going after the conservatives, taking these conservative stands, like they don't seem to really be historians of the genre. Like when you look at every political debate going on, pro tip, you look at every political debate, every argument, every dispute, every controversy going on, you ask yourself, what would Patsy Cline, what would Mother Maybelle think? What would Johnny Cash think? What would Minnie Pearl think? Like that's, because that's the thing. There was a time not too long ago when some of the absolute best music ever made was being made by country artists,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of my friends in the local scene are folk and country artists like here, and they're incredible. Y'all ever hear Rambler Kane?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And so many times about Rambler Kane, I'm just like, how is he just here? How is he just here doing that? Like,
and all the bluegrass stuff and
Blossom and Bone, more folk bluegrass, but like, how are they just here?
Yeah.
Right.
And there's stuff like Incredible. That going on all over the country. Yeah.
Everywhere. I've said this to my partner before, and several people, like, of all my, this is a little bit of an aside, I guess, but all of my friends, and I include myself in this, everyone that I know in the music scene, I'm not saying that I'm in love with every song, but I think everyone has one that's, at least one, that's just a complete banger, right? Like just, oh my God.
Sure.
Like I'm thinking of Rambler Kane's Fool's Gold. I am obsessed with that song. I have been obsessed with that song for however long he's had it, probably a year. I just think it's incredible. And I genuinely feel like I could say that about some of my own songs as well. Like that I'm very proud of, and some other friends that have some incredible stuff, but like there's people like that everywhere. Just no one knows who they are. They've got 3 monthly listeners on Spotify. It's them, their mom, and their dad, and like they're amazing. And it's just that's everywhere. And that's what I love about being in the underground scene and not being AstroTurf. Although I will say, if somebody wants to give me $8 million to sing a song about climate change or something, like, got
Absolutely.
it. But like I'm
Yeah,
not going to abandon
yeah.
my values, but I will continue my
Yeah.
values for $8 million for sure. But
You
yeah,
know
like
when
that's what I
you're
love about being underground.
Yeah, I mean, every artist, even the people, that do the grassroots thing their entire life. There are some fantastic musicians, singers, guitar players, drummers
Yeah,
out there that have absolutely never
yeah,
made it to, let's say, Hollywood or Nashville,
sure,
and they
sure.
continue to play, and they love what they do, and uh, there's that's why musicians do what they do anyway, is because they feel it and it feels good to them and it's part of their
Yeah,
life.
yeah.
But
Mhm.
every single one of them will tell you that, hey, there was a time I sure could have used that $8 million record contract.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I love my job. I love my career, but if I could just
I
play
don't think
music,
there's I don't think there's one of them out
yeah,
there that would seriously say,
yeah,
no, I'm not going
yeah,
to do that.
right.
Not many, not many, not many.
No.
It's nice to pay off those bills.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
And when you're a budding musician, I know for a fact I spent a small fortune on drum equipment over the years, and microphones and
oh my
cables
God.
and cords and
Yeah,
soundboards, and I mean,
yeah,
it's like to a lot of musicians it really is like buying, like you hear it in the South, the best day of my life is when I bought that boat. The second
yeah.
best
The
day is
second
when
best
I
when I sold it.
sold it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a hole in the water, I mean, it's just, now listen, let's pop onto another one here. Are there any trends, away from the astroturfing, which is a trend that's been around for a
Mhm.
while? And just like you said, Shelton, it initially really did start in politics. It was campaign people were doing it way before other people in
For sure.
marketing saw value in
Oh
it.
yeah.
I say value, but are there any positive trends or innovations that excite you or concern you in the music industry? Positive trends, something that you see in the music industry, um, that makes you stop and think, or just say, yeah, that's a good thing.
I read a story a couple of days ago that I found pretty cool. The San Francisco Public Library launched a service called Bay Beats. It's basically a streaming platform designed specifically to showcase Bay Area artists. And of course, the Bay Area has had a huge role in music going back to Grateful Dead, Jefferson Airplane, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So basically, they pay every artist like $250 to put stuff up on the site, and and from there it links to their own website, so you can go and get it directly from the artist. And I'm not sure what the cost to download is for the general public, but any one of the 500,000 San Francisco Public Library card holders can download music for free whenever they want, and the clicks go toward streaming numbers and all that. And as it turns out, is it Nashville and I believe New Orleans, their public libraries have also started to do the same thing. So I like the idea of individual cities and towns and communities just seizing up, doing their own thing. Like Jacksonville exploded with live music after we bounced back from the pandemic.
Yeah.
Stuff like the Sad Girl Happy Hour, and so much. We have these crews, like the whole Warehouse Studios crew, and all the stuff going on out at Kona. I think that's a trend that really excites me the most. Simply artists doing what they want, and without having to worry about the gatekeepers and all that. But then seeing that the mainstream is kind of starting to embrace it, and as we see in Jacksonville, we're slowly learning how to actually monetize our local culture, which is good for the community and good for the values they represent.
Right.
That
And you
thing about a
mentioned,
library is really cool.
right.
Sorry.
No.
We I'm a huge supporter of the Jacksonville Public Library. I actually got married in the main library.
Awesome.
And I don't know how we get that started here, but I will be the first one on there. I will say that, we got a new mayor, and I haven't followed it, her probably as closely as either one of you, but I have seen some rumblings about her investing in arts. I think she appointed like an arts committee or something that we just didn't have before, and that's really nice. That's really great. I'm really happy to hear about that. Yeah.
And she has her, and she still has.
Go ahead.
Yeah, she still has the transition team going through a lot of that stuff. And as one of the head members of the transition team in the arts community is Hope McMahon. And she has a lot of people on a whole committee of people working on that, working on making sure that Jacksonville starts doing a little better job of supporting its arts community.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I will be honest, like I voted for Donna Deegan, obviously. I am a very left-leaning person.
All of us sane people did.
Sure.
Yes.
I'm very left-leaning, and I'll be honest, like I'm probably more left-leaning than many people, and so I'm pretty used to being disappointed by Democrats, even though I vote for them every time. And so with Donna Deegan, I was sort of like, well, she's a little bit, middle of the road, and I will obviously support her, but I'll just wait and see, see how I'm thrilled so far. I'm like, okay, great.
Yeah.
Like, great. Okay. You're like in the community, you're like doing things. Thank you.
Yeah.
And she came in and she took over.
Go ahead, Shelton.
Oh, I was just going to say that, since she came in, she's a tiny little lady and she's very nice and all that. I think certainly her opposition on the Republican side, they had a huge, like a 4-to-1 financial advantage. And, a lot of like state political media was heavily invested in her losing, even locally, like, even some of us who knew her, like we all thought she'd be the best person, but we just assumed that she'd get steamrolled the way this Republican hate machine always does. But I think, they underestimate her. Number one, she is tough and resilient, and she's got cardio for days. Like she pulls in, she's up at 6 a.m. or whatever running. Then she pulls a full shift as mayor, and then you'll see her out 6, 7, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, still doing community conversations. Again, going to people's, going into people's communities, into their churches, into their community centers. And you can tell that, she spent her whole life here. And you can tell from these committees and the way the committees were, because a lot of this stuff is very new, like these committees, subcommittees, and who she puts on them, and like deliberately, like taking people that might not necessarily get along, but putting them in the same position. Like you can tell that she is thought extensely about every aspect of what she's doing. Like her first month as mayor, I think, is one of the best first months of any politician I can think of in a long time.
Yeah. I really hope that she continues this trajectory and goes far, because she's excellent.
Yeah. I mean, there will be controversy. Yes.
Yeah. And they were just saying, she's going to be the first Jacksonville mayor to act as the grand marshal for the Pride Parade next year, or the one coming up.
That is really cool. I'm actually out of town that day, and I'm really bummed about it. I'm really sad about it. I really wanted to see that.
Maybe we might live stream it. That'd be fun.
Okay. Yeah.
There you go.
Early. Yeah.
All right. We're running out of time here, but I got to tell you guys, this was a great conversation. I know that we'll have many more in the future. Shelton, I know I'll see you next season for sure.
Yes.
And Megan, I've already asked you, Megan, if you would return next season with me and talk about something that you're involved in that has to do with your day gig. Megan happens to be a mental health wellness counselor professional.
Yeah.
Well, that's good news for us.
I'm a licensed mental health counselor. Yeah.
And I told her also that that I've had many mental health professionals on the show, and one of my more recent guests, I sent you her link, Ray Hags. She's in North Carolina, and I actually met her on a podcast, and then I was on her podcast. And she came on my podcast, and that's awesome. She does, and she does the same thing. And I would say that all three of us here, I could say that the three of us here right now, all three of us are allies, and we can definitely, we are definitely down for people that are, there to help people in professional setting, not just being friends and having discussions with your friends, but people that are in the professional spectrum that are there to help people in the LGBTQ community.
The joy of trauma and the joy of trauma and the joy of suffering is that once you get through it, you're then able to help others get through it.
Yo, I always say that. Like I'm a therapist because of my therapist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh,
shout out to Maurice.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
This is an unrelated point, Tracy. But I just had this breaking news today. Did you hear about Yevgeny Prigozhin? Yevgeny Prigozhin, head of the Wagner Group, the Russian mercenary group.
I heard a little bit about it. Go ahead. Tell me about that. What did he do now?
Plane crash. He tried to. He was trying to run that coup on Putin. He apparently went down on a private plane yesterday. The Wagner Group claims that the Russian military shot it down. Russian military is like, what plane? We don't know no plane.
Of course. Of course. No, they don't know a thing about it. Of course not. Well, that's something. He's been around for a while. He's been in.
The Wagner Group was involved to a certain extent with the January 6th stuff. That wasn't just little cliques and little isolated groups of people. That was an organized national effort with what's the company that used to be called Blackwater? They changed their name. Betsy DeVos's brother runs it. They were involved in that too. So.
That's crazy. I don't know if you may have seen it, Megan. I know you did, Shelton. But when I posted that you mentioned January 6th, and I had asked folks online, what were you doing on January 6th? And I remember what we were doing on January 6th. You and I were in the studio. You and I were in the studio, and we were getting ready to. Yeah. We were gonna have a recording session.
Yeah.
We should have recorded at the time, but we were just blown away. We just sat there for several hours just watching the whole thing play out on guys' setup,
I was taking a walk in the woods, and I had my phone on me, and my friend who lives in Dublin texted me, and she was like, "Everybody good over there? Like, you got some crazy stuff going on?" I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
And then I was like, "I have to leave. I need to go home."
What would you have done if you went to take that walk in the woods and then you come back from the woods and there's been like a coup d'etat? Like you get back from the woods and democracy is over?
I don't know. I mean, I probably would have been like, yeah, that tracks, and then just come back to the woods, but
yeah.
I'm telling you, it's been nuts. It's been nuts. I know, for the longest time, everybody used to say, "Where were you on 9/11?" And now it's, "What were you doing on January 6th?"
Yeah.
God, that's crazy. Well, I tell you, I've had a wonderful time. I am so glad that you guys are here to help me celebrate the official finale of season 4. I am going to be taking. I'm going to be taking. Hillary, I'm going to be taking a little bit of time off from actually doing any live shows, just to do some remodeling in the studio. And in the meantime, doing some maintenance on some maintenance on the other things, and I've got the website needs some cleaning up and all that stuff that has to be done on a daily basis that I have just not been able to keep up with. And so,
you've done a ton of work this year.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. Next season is going to be. I'm streamlining what I'm doing. My workflow is going to be streamlined so that everything runs a little bit more smoother. But like I was telling Megan, over the last few years, we've been doing this since 2020, and over the years, it's really evolved quite a bit. The show evolved quite a bit. All kinds of things have changed here and there, some for the better, some for the worse. Some things have just dropped off the planet. But it's ever evolved. It's ever evolving, and I'm going to keep doing it.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Thanks for being here. We'll see everybody next time.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
for having me. Oh, yeah. Smash that subscribe button. Did we say that here?
You can.
Okay, smash that subscribe
Smash
button.
that subscribe button.
Smash it.
Follow me on Instagram. I'm Swamp Queen Sings.
There you
That's
go.
right.
There you go. and during this upcoming break, I'm going to be giving you guys a quick sneak peek of Megan's promo clip for her song that she has that you can get on Spotify, and you're going to take that link and you're going to use it.
Yes, you're gonna do it.
You're gonna do it. You're gonna smash that.
You're already doing it. Yes,
That's right. They're gonna smash that button.
You are now listening. You're now watching the show for a second time, having already downloaded it. So you already know that you've done it. Thank you for doing it.
That's right. See you guys.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Is the worst yet to come? Could you tell me again? What did you mean when you said you'd be here till the end?
I'd like to thank all my friends, fans, and followers on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. All of you, and those of you who are not already following us, please like, share, comment, and on the YouTube channel, like, share, comment, and smash the subscribe button so that you get all the new episodes. Don't forget to ring that bell. You get notifications. And listen, once again, I want to thank each and every single one of you. Your support means the world to me, and I certainly do appreciate it. Again, thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, that was phenomenal. That was phenomenal. And you know, like I said in the thank you segment, thank you for being around. 4 seasons. And this being the official, and I'm calling it the official because in the meantime, before we start season 5, you'll still have a chance to go and listen to and watch hundreds of hours of content on our website, our YouTube channel, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, and Threads. And I wanted to thank, from the bottom of my heart, my brother, Shelton Hull. Shelton, if it hadn't have been for him and I starting this 3 years ago, who knows where the Lounge Podcast would be now. And for this episode, Megan, thank you. It was a last-minute thing that I was able to get Megan to come on, and she was just a joy to have conversation with. And if you listen to that clip just now, I know you're going to smash that button. Go on over there to Spotify, and you share, you like, share, and comment everything over there on the website, the YouTube channel. Go check out on Instagram, Swamp Queen Sings. That's Megan McKenzie's IG handle. And definitely follow all of the ladies that partake in the Sad Girls Happy Hour. Support local music, support local venues, support each other. And like I always say, take care of yourselves and each other. Until next season, peace.